Guys, welcome back to the channel. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, not an album reaction. I'm going over recent media that I've consumed, so that's movies, books, and music. It's going to be 4 movies, 3 books, and some music slash songs slash albums that I've been indulging in. So if you like this sort of content, of course, I'm happy to do it more often, because, you know, love sharing, recommending, and talking about stuff that I've loved recently. So if you enjoy the content on the channel, please like and subscribe. I would highly appreciate it. Without further ado, I'm gonna go straight into the movies to start us off. So the first movie I watched this year was High and Low by Akira Kurosawa. Now, it's my first Kurosawa movie, which probably will sound pretty surprising to the movie lovers out there. I'm not like a huge movie buff. I love movies, but I'm not super cultured on the greats. And so Kurosawa is a great from Japan, famously known for Seven Samurai. But yeah, High and Low was a visually stunning movie, and it is black and white. I think it's the first black and white movie I've seen since like A Christmas Carol from back in the day. So that is one of the main factors as to why I chose High and Low to watch, because I wanted to watch a black and white film, but also it's a crime, drama, mystery. I love that sort of stuff. So yeah, so the first part of the movie is pretty much set in one room, which was super interesting. And I love the shots of prevalent characters that are in the background of shots, but there's conversation happening in the foreground. And this dialogue goes on such a journey, and you're super invested in the dialogue, but we're in this one room for so long. And I love that. I don't think I've seen something like that in a movie in movies that I've watched. So that was super enjoyable. I think that was my favorite part, the whole first half of the movie. Yeah, the story is about an executive in Yokohama who is one of the higher ups in the shoe company. A very rich guy. He becomes a victim to extortion due to his chauffeur's son getting kidnapped by accident. They were meant to kidnap his son, not the chauffeur's son. So we don't know who it is that kidnapped this child. And so we go on a whole journey trying to figure out who it is. And it really gave... I don't want to give too much away. This will be spoiler free, by the way. But yeah, very much got Parasite vibes because of the class dynamics shown and how that could urge people to act a certain way. Visually stunning, and the story is very gripping, so highly recommend. Okay, so the second movie I watched is Koyaanisqatsi. I thought it was a pretty strange name at first. It is actually from a Red Indian dialect, I believe. But yeah, Koyaanisqatsi, directed by Godfrey Reggio. Now, this is probably the first movie I watched that doesn't have any dialogue. So I went from dialogue being a super prevalent factor in High and Low to Koyaanisqatsi. He basically shot, I guess, the eco side of nature and how humanity kind of enters the picture. He showed that progression or regression, I guess you could say, throughout the course of 6 years, or almost 6 years. I went into it thinking that the nature aspects at the beginning of the movie would be the most visually stunning, because, you know, waterfalls, everything in nature is just super beautiful. But to my surprise, it was actually towards the end, the second half of the movie, where I was super invested into the visuals of what humanity has done to nature. So it's sort of bittersweet in a way. We're destroying nature, but we are building these beautiful roads and buildings, if you look at it in a certain aspect. So it was extremely interesting. One thing I must touch on is Philip Glass, who scored this film. The music is absolutely insane, and I think without that music, the movie would not be what it is. One of the best soundtracks I've heard in a movie for sure. Yeah, so the visuals along with Philip Glass's score creates a sort of mesmerizing experience. Like, it puts you in a trance. Sometimes you might be watching it and you're actually thinking about other stuff, maybe related to what's going on. It's sort of like you're meditating whilst watching this film, is how I would put it. And something I took from this, and what I was surprised about, was that it wasn't just the destruction of nature and how humanity kind of took over. It's more so the self-inflicted damage to humanity, is how I saw it. Because we get these close-up shots of people like in Times Square or popular cities, and there is sort of like a unneeded complexity in their eyes, or in what's going on when you look at humanity up close through a magnifying glass. It's almost like what have we done sort of thing, not to nature but to ourselves, because we've overcomplicated many things. That's what I got from Koyaanisqatsi, more so than the destruction of nature. So beautiful film, I would highly recommend. Now, the third movie I watched this year was Memories of Murder, directed by Bong Joon-ho, very famous Korean director. He directed Parasite, which I'm familiar with. So went back to one of his older works, Memories of Murder, heard incredible stuff about it, so I had to check it out. Fly kicks all over the place. The fly kicks are so incredible in this movie. I'm just wondering how many takes it took for these fly kicks to be so perfected. But yeah, the movie also stars Song Kang-ho, who is the father in Parasite, and he is an incredible actor, also a professional fly kicker. Yeah, so this is based on a true story where a serial killer was murdering women between 1986 and the early 90s. Over 10 murders. But this is based on, I guess, the beginning fraction of that spree. They notify you at the beginning of the movie actually that it's unsolved. And I've actually heard that the murderer has actually watched the movie, which is a bit eerie. And we get shots where Song Kang-ho is kind of looking directly into the camera, talking to the serial killer. So you can imagine how that would have been like for the serial killer watching the movie. It's pretty interesting. But he has been caught in real life now. But yeah, in this movie, I would say the tension building is so incredible. Like some of the most tense scenes I've ever seen. You're on the edge of your seat and you just know something is about to happen. But one thing I do want to point out is the use of color in this film. And I guess the use of not just color, but you're super invested on how this serial killer behaves, and it makes you as a viewer look out for certain stuff, like changes in the weather or what color someone is wearing. And I found that super interesting to have whilst watching the movie, because it always made you kind of pay attention. One other thing is how much desperation reaches its peak, leading officers to being pretty unethical just to try and get this case over and done with. It highlighted that problem very well. But yeah, there's huge desperation. You know, everyone wants to find this killer. It's very unsettling for everyone because it's a very small village too. You know, it's not Seoul, it's somewhere south of Seoul. You know, usually their crimes are super easy to solve. Like they say in the film, they have a quote, something like, "The crimes we get here are solved by feet, not by the brain, because it's such a small space." I thought that was a great quote. But yeah, love the explosiveness of some of the characters in this film. Love the fly kicks and the visuals. Everything was amazing. Yeah, I initially gave this a 4-star out of 5, and over time I kept thinking about it and I gave it a 4.5. So same for high and low, the same thing happened, so both 4.5s. Now the fourth and latest film that I have watched is The Red Shoes, directed by Emmerich Pressburger and Michael Powell. When I say this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, that's exactly what I mean, or it might be an understatement. This movie made me research about Technicolor, because I was just so stunned at how visually appealing this whole movie was, how the colors jump out of the screen. The colors are so vibrant, and so that is due to Technicolor. So I did some research about that. It was also in Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland. Very extensive and expensive process that we don't use today because it's not very efficient, but it's still a very sought after aesthetic. If it wasn't such a difficult process, an expensive process, it will be a cheat code today for sure. So we follow a ballerina called Vicky Page, who is kind of battling this competition between love and her passion or desire to dance, and how she kind of has to choose one or the other. And it very much feels like a fairy tale. From the start, it felt like a fairy tale, and then we do get some fantasy elements, and then it really feels like you're in a fairy tale. They were able to achieve that before they even added those elements. So pretty much right in the middle of this film, there is a long, like 17-minute sequence of her dancing, and it's so beautiful. It's like we're in a dream within a dream is how I would describe it. And there's loads of little things you could point out in that one sequence alone. What I get from it is sort of that flow state that you're in when you're performing at your highest level, your highest ability on stage, and the audience sort of disappears because you're super locked in. They did show like an ocean where the audience would be, and it's like we're seeing it through her eyes. It's like she's washed away that pressure from the audience. There was a lot of things in that sequence that I loved. Another thing this film touches on is sort of the distaste you could have in a person just from one bad event that happens. You will see, if you watch this film, a very spiteful character. Someone who puts his career above the value of everyone around him, and how that could really pressure someone. And throughout all of this, Vicky is questioning her love and her career. And I think that is the main premise of this film, is love or passion. So yeah, as soon as I finished The Red Shoes, I wanted to watch it again. The next day I wanted to watch it again. So before long, I am probably going to be watching this again. I gave it 5 stars. Perfect film. So if you haven't seen it, please do me a favor and watch it. So now we are on to the books that I read. I've had a couple DNFs, and I've included one DNF. So the first book I read this year was The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. The only Camus book I've read before this is The Stranger, or The Outsider it's called in the UK anyway. I love his writing, love his ideas. I've always wanted to learn more about absurdism, which is his philosophy, and I've wanted to differentiate it from nihilism and optimistic nihilism a bit more, and I think this book did do a good job of that. But one major thing I think you should read this book for is the question of suicide and how he tackles that. I think he always has some great quotes, super nice quotes, and things to think about that will resonate with you for a while. So yeah, if you're interested in existentialism, nihilism, absurdism, this is a great book to read. One thing I will say is that he does like criticize other philosophers quite a bit in this book, which put me off slightly, because I kind of just wanted him to present his views and not talk about a bunch of other people's views. But he did touch on some great stuff about Nietzsche, who advocates for nihilism. He touched on the fact that Nietzsche isn't really a nihilist, in the sense that the way we picture nihilism as sort of this negative, pessimistic view, Nietzsche was very much an optimist. And so in a way, there is a term that gets thrown about nowadays called optimistic nihilism, and I think Nietzsche would have fit more so in that bracket than what the general view of nihilism is. So yeah, check out if you're interested in philosophy, existentialism. It's a pretty decent book. We also have The Plague, which I plan on reading this year for sure. So interested in getting into more of Camus' fiction, not non-fiction. So I think I do enjoy fiction that has elements of philosophy in it a lot more than the non-fiction. So the second book I'm going to be talking about is Babel 17, which I've been pronouncing Babel 17, but I'm pretty sure it's Babel, by Samuel R. Delany. This book won a ton of awards. He is highly praised as one of the greatest science fiction writers ever. He's looked at as a genius to many science fiction fans, and I will be honest, this book had amazing ideas that I would love to see executed well, and I don't think he actually executed it very well. This book explores linguistic theory. It highlights the importance of language and words, and how that can have an influence on someone, and how things only exist because they've been named. It's extremely interesting, and that's the reason why I would recommend people to read this, is because of that idea. For me, it would take more reads to kind of dabble into its complexities a bit more, because sometimes it is quite like an info dump, or just a bunch of words that you want to get through to get to the interesting parts. With ideas like this, it does create a bit of excitement, and that made me want to read more, like how language could be used as a weapon. It sounded like a really interesting thing, and unfortunately I DNF'd the book towards the end because it was not going in the direction that not necessarily the direction, but yeah, for me it made me lose interest as it went on. Maybe if you love sci-fi, you'll pick up on it a bit more, because I haven't read many sci-fi books. So yeah, if it sounds interesting, check out. Wow, this feels like the movies that I was mentioning. The last book I'm talking about is Giovanni's Room, which was my favorite out of the books that I've read recently. Just like The Red Shoes, the last one I talked about, was my favorite. So Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. It's a very famous book, and I read it for the first time recently. The term Giovanni's Room alone has many layers to it, and I love that about the title. I will start off by saying that. So we follow this young man named David. He's in Paris, France. His girlfriend has gone on a trip to Spain, and his family is back in America. So he seems like sort of alienated from his relations, and so he dabbles into a love interest, Giovanni, and that's what sets off the roller coaster. Gosh, the dynamics in this book are something else. It's absolutely, bro, they will tear your heart out and put it back into place. I teared up towards the end of this book because of how heart-wrenching it was. You're sort of in David's mind, who is kind of battling desire and what is seen to be the moral thing to do. As a reader, you might be shouting at him to do a certain thing, and maybe his desires will take over and not do the right thing. Throughout this book, there's always like it's like a volcano of emotion that you're kind of apprehensively waiting to boil over, and I think that's one thing that makes this book absolutely incredible. I will say at first, James Baldwin's writing was not getting to me. The first third of the book, actually I'll say the first quarter of the book, I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And then the other 3/4 were beyond perfect. So yeah, one thing which I kind of touched on already is how David is kind of alienated, but his emotions are also kind of alienated. It's like, in a way, he could have gone with his girlfriend to Spain, by the way. It's not like a mutual decision for them to have space between them. These decisions he makes are sort of alien, and that is one main example, is his girlfriend going to Spain and him staying in France. Physically and mentally, we're just out of the loop a bit. So yeah, if you haven't read Giovanni's Room, you better go and read that as soon as possible. Okay? I gave this 5 stars on Goodreads. Perfect book. Now, I'm going to talk about some music I've really been addicted to lately. 2 of them will be sort of albums/songs, and the rest are songs. So the first song is Don't Know What I'm Gonna Do by Harumi.
I know it's hard to find the love that's true, but I found the universe in you. Hey, hey. Oh, darling.
Now, this song makes every monotonous task feel like heaven, like paradise. There's so much like comfort and love in this song. It sort of reminds me of a lot of the soul that my parents used to play back in the day, and also a lot of Argentine, Latin American rock that I listen to, like soft rock. So if you like that sort of stuff, please check it out. I will have probably included a snippet of what it sounds like. So yeah. Next is Let's Get Blown by Snoop Dogg and Pharrell Williams. This is a classic. The Neptunes who produced this captured that perfect early 2000s sound that sounds so nostalgic. If you're familiar with Rock Your Body by Justin Timberlake, which is another amazing early 2000s song, Vanessa Marquez did the female vocals on there. And she's also on Let's Get Blown, and she only has one line, but it adds so much to the whole song. Like one line that's repeated throughout the song. Yeah, and Neptunes also produced Rock Your Body. So love Pharrell's vocals. Snoop Dogg perfectly rides the beat. Amazing song. I'm sure you guys have heard it. Next one is Just Another Case by Crew, which is a hip-hop group featuring Slick Rick.
The sweat off the brow, assuming garment. Both were goddess of a 2-bedroom apartment. Great statement without delayment. Away went safe to get a house on one of them low down.
If you guys watch the music video, Slick Rick is not in that version. You'd have to listen to it on streaming or the audio on YouTube. I've really been obsessed with that 90s rap that's not super aggressive. It's that sort of chill rap, much like Q-Tip or Tribe Called Quest in general, but mainly Q-Tip vibes is what you're going to get on this track. Crew really surprised me with how they're super underrated but so talented. And then Slick Rick, one of my favorite flows in rap ever. Love many of his tracks, but he glides this beat so perfectly. And I will include a snippet of Slick Rick's part. It samples a beautiful funk soul track from 1976 called The World Is a Place by Rhythm. And I think that really adds to the nostalgic feel that it has. So yeah, check it out if you're not familiar. Next is Mescalito Remix by Shrapknel, the hip-hop duo, featuring Billy Woods.
First to the clue, you can call me fabulous. Hustle man, picking up the pieces of this piece of man. Sifting sand, hourglass broke so we can sniff Sudan.
This is the DJ Haram remix. She's an incredible producer, has produced for Billy Woods and Shrapknel in the past, I believe. Definitely Billy Woods and Arm & Hammer. I love her production. There's sort of a really eerie sound to this beat, which I love in hip-hop, especially paired with, I guess, can I say eerie rappers? Because Billy Woods kind of has that eerie feel, and so does Shrapknel in a way. I've grown to really love this pairing. Babylon by Bus, one of my favourite songs from last year, is Shrapknel and Billy Woods, and they go really well together. One thing that really makes this track stand out is how DJ Haram used breakbeat within this eerie beat. Really left field, I would say, to have that bind between those two things. And then she uses Halftime, I believe, which is a plugin which is very popular in music production, which slows down whatever you're working with. So she uses the breakbeat later on slowed down, which adds a lot to that eerie feel. There's like howls going on in the background and everything. This beat is incredible. And yeah, the original Mescalito is actually a lot more jazzy, but I definitely prefer this version. So yeah, check it out if you're not aware. Next is Wishes by Beach House. This is on the Bloom album, which I did a reaction to, and if you've watched that, you would know how much I love Beach House and how much I love Wishes. Is my favorite on the album towards the end when we get that huge flipping eruption after each pause. I've been so addicted to that ever since that reaction. The whole album is so incredible. So if you're not familiar with Bloom and Beach House, what are you doing, mate? I'm super excited to get through more of their discovery. At the same time, I want it to last a long time, so I don't want to rush through it. Yeah, Beach House has possibly became my favorite band. Possibly. Yeah. Next is The Undercard by Billy Woods off of the Dour Candy album.
6th floor, walk up, work off the gut. 2 steps at a time, apartment E9, what up? They cooking dinner, garlic, onion, ginger, duck in the back room, settle up.
This is produced by Blockhead, who is one of the hip-hop producers that has surprised me, impressed me the most exploring this album. There's a guitar loop in here that is so addicting, and this actually samples the song from Clips called Freedom, which has that same guitar.
With every line written and all I have given, music's been nothing more than a self-made prison. I've taken inmate losses at the hands of this one.
And of course the Clips duo is Pusha T and his brother No Malice, and there's actually a reference to that in this Woods track.
Breathe in the doubt, sip fear from chalice. Push the ton with no malice. Turn the corner like Kennedy and Dallas.
In this Billy Woods Blockhead track, it's more prevalent and there's more oomph to the guitar, and I love that. And the conviction in Billy Woods rapping, his voice pairs super well. It's a super quick track. It's only like 1 minute and 1 minute and 34 seconds. Super short, but it's just a nice quick dose of the highest tier of rap and highest tier of production. Absolutely orgasmic guitar. Check out if you're not familiar. Also, the album name Dour Candy like perfectly depicts the music. I want to name some of my favorites on the album because I've been listening to that whole album. Redacted, The Undercard, which we're talking about now, 1001 Nights, Central Park, Manteca, Tinseltown, Gilgamesh. Yeah, those 7 I've been obsessed with. One of my favorite Woods projects, and I don't see people talking about it as much as some of the others, which I find pretty interesting because it's insane. The last track that I'm going to be talking about is The Path Less Traveled by Vegyn. Now, if you know me, you know Vegyn is in my top 3 producers ever. He's also from London, like myself. Huge inspiration to my production. And he has an album dropping in 2 months on April 5th, which I'm very excited for. And I do believe this track is going to be on there. He did drop this track with a couple other songs in like a little EP, but The Path Less Traveled is the one that actually dropped recently. The others are previous songs that he added to this. Yeah, I would say check out Halo Flip and Makeshift Tourniquet as well. There's something so otherworldly in Vegyn's beats, and I think The Path Less Traveled demonstrates that perfectly. Like, I would almost recommend this song specifically to someone that I would want to introduce Vegyn's music to. The melodies are always putting me on another planet, and I think Vegyn and Aphex Twin do it the best, I have to say. If you're a fan of Aphex Twin and you're not aware of Vegyn, you have to check him out. It's going to put you in that place that a lot of Aphex Twin's music is going to put you in. So if you're a fan of Aphex Twin, listen to Vegyn. I've had this on repeat and it's probably my favorite song right now. Any opportunity I get, I'm going to mention Vegyn and recommend him to people. Absolutely incredible producer. So that is it. That's it from me. Those are the movies, the books, and the music I've indulged in and enjoyed in recent times. If you guys enjoyed, please like, subscribe if you're not subscribed. I mostly drop album reactions on this channel. I did want to get some variety in the content. And if you guys enjoy this, even if you don't enjoy this, I'm going to enjoy making more of these type videos. So I love you guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.